Exhausting. The offense was exhausting.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are here at Beaver Stadium, live outside of the press box here to talk Penn State versus Villanova. What's going on with the offense? What are the causes? What are the issues? As Penn State does win 52-6, but they don't cover again, and the offense just could not get into rhythm. My name is Zach Sako. I am your host of the show, as always, credentialed media member, as you can see here, credentialed media member for both Penn State football and Penn State wrestling. And thank you so much for joining me on the live show. Your comments, your questions are absolutely encouraged. Please submit them in the live chat, and we'll talk about all of it here in about under 30 minutes. So, is it Drew Allar? Is it James Franklin? Is it the offensive line? Is it the wide receivers? I mean, the wide receivers have been good, but they haven't been great, honestly. To be honest, it's a mix of everything. That's my initial takeaway here. And we're also going to talk about, should Penn State even still be favored against Oregon? That's going to be later on in the show. But let's get to the beginning of this, because I do not trust Penn State's offense at the moment to get into a track meet with the Oregon Ducks. Oregon, despite having a new quarterback, new offensive line, new running back, new wide receivers, leading pass catcher from a year ago returning, they seem to be more in sync against Power 4 opponents, in conference opponents, than Penn State does against the likes of Nevada, FIU, and now Villanova. So it begs the question, who's the most responsible here? And it's a little bit of everything. It's going to be on the quarterback and coaching first and foremost. Most people are going to say that. This is, James Franklin's fault. I don't really implicate Andy Kotelnicki, actually. This is either James Franklin needs to correct this, and Drew Allar does bear a good amount of responsibility here. But like I said, offensive line, pass catchers, they are letting Drew down simultaneously. That is not the same Nicholas Singleton that we're accustomed to. And you can define them as excuses. I do see legitimate reasons here for why Singleton is taking a step back initially. And again, if you hear any background noise, do remember I'm outside of the stadium here to do this post-game show live, because I want to react and bring this to you as quickly as possible. So to cut to the chase, let's talk about Drew. Drew is not seeing the field well, at least not today against Villanova, and I guess that goes back to FIU. He was really good against Nevada. I mean, as we should expect. 22 of 26, over 200 yards, no turnovers. But today, against an FCS opponent, an awful red zone interception. When your team forces a turnover and puts you in the best field position possible, and it's a check down that the linebacker's reading all the way, does Drew not see him? Clearly not. And he just throws a lazy dump-off pass, and it's picked off. And it's, when you're a fourth-year veteran, when you're a third-year starting, this isn't a new offensive system. The things that I could understand and the things that I could reason with are the things that I say, hey, Drew should be a lot better. This offense should be humming along. It's the defense with Jim Knowles, a good amount of turnover defensively. Not completely, but the defense, the starters, the ones and twos have showed up phenomenally. So in this game specifically, Drew was missing a lot of wide open wide receivers. If his first option was not there, he quickly would get rid of the football. Is that essentially jitters because the offensive line is letting you down? I'll get to them in a second, maybe. But as a veteran player, as a veteran quarterback, Trevor Peña is running wide open. Kyron Hudson's wide open. Devontae Ross is wide open. And you are making those easy types of mistakes that you can't as a fourth-year player. So with that being said, Penn State is going to have to make those offensive changes, and Drew's going to have to stop overthinking. Drew is overthinking at this point in time. Now let's talk about the offensive line. Offensive line has not been good. They've been average at moments and times. They are, and I know we got a lot of stuff going on in the background here. The offensive line has not been good. And it's a lot of miscommunication stuff. It's a lot of just simple, easy reads. Anthony Donko, I saw, let a free blitzer just rush right through. And that's why Drew's trying to get rid of the ball early, because the offensive line just isn't holding up in protection routinely enough. There were some good pockets. There was some good moments where, hey, Nolan Rucci, good block. But when the offensive line tries to do some creative things, they don't, I don't know if they're communicating or if it's the tight ends and running backs on these double teams, on these blocks that they're trying to do, these combo blocks. They're not in sync. They're out of sync on these plays. So the offensive line still needs to clean some things up. Pass catchers. Okay, the wide receivers and the tight ends. There are plays where the football, they'll just let an easy catch drop out of their hands. Trevor Peña dropped the ball today. I think Khalil Dinkins most notably had a drop last week. That was a pass that he should have caught. Kyron Hudson has been reliable for the most part. Devontae Ross dropping the touchdown in the end zone. I'm not sure what that's all about. But there was a face mask. His face mask got pulled. There was heavy contact in the end zone. So Devontae Ross, maybe there's an excuse for why, or a reason why he didn't catch that pass. So when I look at this offensive group, I don't trust them at this point in time. To talk about James Franklin now, I'm interested in this approach because it is very laissez-faire. It's very, hey, I'm just going to let them do, like, he's really backed off. At some point, does James Franklin need to yell? Does he need to get stern with this offensive group? Because it's different when you are playing an out-of-conference opponent, when they're Power 4, when it's a tougher team, and it's early in the season. I get it. But against FCS Villanova, you should not be making these mistakes, especially when they're right in front of you. Villanova's well coached. I think they put a decent scheme together today defensively. But at some point, is James Franklin too removed? Is he too backed off at this point? Everybody likes to say that James Franklin meddles in everything, is that he has too much influence. I'm here to say he might not have enough influence in this game. At least it didn't seem like it today. We don't know what's going on at the halftime. At halftime, is he giving an impassioned locker room speech or something like that? We don't know. But when I'm looking at the sidelines or watching the TV in the press box, there's just really, and then when you see the camera pan to the sideline, there's just not a lot of hype. There's not a lot of aggressive communication. And at some point, does there need to be? I got to imagine, like, sometimes it's not wrong to go and say, you got to get it together, man. So if James Franklin, because if Drew's overthinking it, I understand having, just easygoing conversations, but at some point in the heat of the moment, you got to say, cut it out. This is not okay. You're not a first-year starter. This is a veteran offensive line. Get it together. So again, but behind the scenes, one-on-one, again, they go into halftime, and if James Franklin's like, that's not good enough, okay, then so be it. But on the sideline, I do think Franklin needs to be a little more involved there and get in the face of Drew Allar. Let him know, like, hey, calm down and get it together. So the offensive struggles, should Penn State now not be favored anymore against Oregon? It's trending that way. I would not be surprised if the spread continues to go against Penn State as we continue here on this live post-game show. And today's show is brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than just put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, and keep moving the game forward. Since we're fresh off of a game where Penn State beat Villanova 52-6, a couple of plays we could go with. How about Joey Schlaffer getting his first career catch and first career touchdown for Penn State? backup tight end. Tight end room's crowded, but Joey Schlaffer makes a good play today. And then you have not Darius Dixon, who received a lot of hype, but Jameer Joseph getting an interception and a pick six late in the game, which seemed like it was really going to put it out of reach for Villanova. But those two plays really moved the game forward today. And when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, welcome back to the live post-game show. Again, we are outside of the press box here at Beaver Stadium, just trying to get an initial reaction out there. Thank you for joining all of you. Thank you for all of you joining me here on this post-game show. And we'll go to the comments section here. Penn State needs a new quarterback. Penn State needs a quarterback who's just going to be more consistent. So maybe that is the answer. Drew's not going to be benched, okay? Ethan Grunkemeyer, Jackson Smolik, did the answer leave to go to Missouri in Bo Pribula? Here's the thing. We know that Drew Allar can do special things. It's just not consistent enough. And it's the mental aspect, because on the one play, Drew Allar absolutely threads the needle, finding Trevor Peña in the end zone. But I think there's this lack of trust right now with Allar, whether it's the offensive line, maybe it's the pass catchers too, because they are all brand new. Kyron Hudson, Trevor Peña, and Devontae Ross. Chemistry is a real thing. You are not going to build it overnight. You are not going to know everybody's strengths. Whereas where Drew said, hey, I got Tyler Warren. I know that I always have Tyler Warren. Let me throw the ball up to Tyler Warren. You don't have that this season. You can force it with Kyron Hudson, and I think you do need to do that. You need to force the football to Kyron Hudson in those testy situations. Hey, just trust him. Dude catches almost everything. When Tyler Warren had the best catch in traffic analytic, according to Pro Football Focus, Kyron Hudson was second last year. So therefore, if you want a replacement for Tyler Warren as that safety check down guy, Luke Reynolds seems to be the player. Okay, but I'm talking about contested catches. Kyron Hudson's got to be your guy. I'm going to go back and forth between the comments here. Let me talk about, because I promised it, should Penn State still be favored against Oregon? Honestly, if this was a neutral site game, they wouldn't be. They wouldn't be. Penn State, the only reason that they're going to be favored against Oregon in 2 weeks is because, one, they have the bye week. They have 2 weeks to prepare for Oregon. So Penn State has that going for them. 2, it is a cross-country trip for Oregon. 3, they have the whiteout. That matters. The whiteout game matters, believe it or not. If you don't think it does, it does. The environment, so this being a home game, this being a cross-country trip, this being a game where Penn State doesn't perform well off the bye week. Hey, 2 weeks to prepare for a team is still 2 weeks to prepare for a team. So Penn State will still be probably a 3-point favorite, give or take. Wouldn't be surprised if this moves to a 2.5 and the line really starts to shrink. But if this was another neutral site game, Oregon would be favored going into it. And that's concerning, what are the reasons that I'm giving all of you as to why Penn State is going to be favored in this game? Oh, well, it's because you could say the defense. I think Jim Knowles and this defense have been light out, but it only proves so much. Against Villanova, against FIU, against Nevada, okay. Collectively, these starters the 1s and 2s have allowed 3 points. Nevada scored 3 points against the 1s and 2s. The reserves have let those backdoor covers happen. So the defense is doing great. You couldn't ask for any more from Jim Knowles. And I think, but at what point, when is Jim Knowles' influence going to affect the offense? I want to see that. I want to see Jim Knowles and his coaching and his scouting really start to amp up and have a better impact, because who do you practice against every day? You're not playing against Villanova daily. You're not playing against FIU. You're going up against one of the best defenses every single day. So what is the excuse? I can give you a couple excuses. I can rattle them off if you want. I have this there. The idea in the back of my head is truly that this is just a warm-up period for Penn State. That Villanova, FIU, and Nevada, they're working on some things. They're just trying to put Penn State, the offense, in uncomfortable situations, because you can pound the rock with Singleton and Allen. You can do that. Even though Singleton hasn't been perfect, he's still been decent. He's still been good. He just hasn't been himself. Katron Allen looks insanely better. There's still 1A and 1B in my mind. For the people that are saying, oh, Katron Allen, he's better and he's always been better than Singleton, they're better at different things. But you can run the football. The passing attack, that's what I mean. You can't get into a track meet with Oregon. So Penn State, I'm expecting can you force a rock fight with them? Maybe. You have the crowd, you have the defense, you have the offensive line that is just a little more susceptible in pass protection than they are in run blocking right now. I appreciate your positivity. I'm very optimistic. I try to step back and look, 1,000 feet. Hey, what is the bigger picture here, right? Appreciate your positivity. However, at this point, I think it's safe to say that Drew Allar is not playing well at all. He just isn't even seeing wide open guys. Again, very true. He double clutches, hesitates constantly. Yeah, so the same thing that I said in the first segment essentially is that Drew had an okay game when you look at the box score. Let's go look at the box score again. The completion percentage is not good, 55%. So it's an okay game from the box score because he goes over 200 yards, 1 turnover, 120.2 passer rating. Okay. But 16 of 29, it's when you watch the game and it's the inconsistencies. Where do they start the drives? Those kinds of things. It's the stopping and going. I also do think this plays into an effect. The referees were just kind of constantly stopping the game. Some weird, interesting calls, a delay of game. It was just because Penn State wanted to go up tempo at points in time and they couldn't. The refs that affects you. If you don't think it does, it does. So if Penn State's trying to build that consistency, that rhythm, that's kind of that core issue there. So we'll see if Penn State goes a little more up-tempo against Oregon. I wouldn't. Because, again, then you get into the race with them. You don't want to get into the race with them. You don't want to get into a track meet. Slow it down. Keep Dante Moore on the sidelines. Keep that offense on the sidelines because they have no problem getting hot instantly. So we'll see how they fix that or how they approach tempo because they wanted to do that against Villanova today and they got stopped. Not even to their own accord, honestly. Drew is not even as good as last year. It's been a rough game 1 was good. Game 1 was fine. Week 2, week 3 has not been good. And again, are they looking ahead too much? Again, in the back of my mind, potentially. That is a legitimate possibility, but I don't see Indiana doing that against Indiana State when they have Illinois on the horizon, right? They have a prime look ahead spot, but Penn State really has a look ahead spot. And they're struggling again with a veteran core. This isn't breaking in a new system. You have, yes, new pass catchers, but the run game isn't as good as it could be, right? Drew Allar, the QB, the quarterback, who is the staple, supposed to be the staple, is not playing up to expectations. All right, we'll continue with the post-game show. Wrap up with some final thoughts, some takeaways. Keep going into the comments section. Appreciate each and every one of you as we continue on this live post-game show. Today's episode is also brought to you by Drip Drop. When I'm on top of my hydration, I notice everything is working better, my energy, my mood, my focus. But getting enough fluids every day isn't always easy. That's why I love using Drip Drop. Drip Drop is doctor-developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb fluids, quickly delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half of the sugar of a leading sports drink. And I had to try it for myself, and it lives up to the hype. It truly does. And I got the 0 sugar variety pack. And if you think it's compromising on taste, it is not. So I got the citrus variety pack, 0 sugar, citrus, pink lemonade, all of these great different flavors so that I can sample all of them. And it truly does live up to the hype. Right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head over to dripdrop.com, use promo code LockedOnCollege. That is dripdrop.com, promo code LockedOnCollege for 20% off. Today's episode is also brought to you by DoorDash. DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. And with the weekend here, it is time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Penn State, and I got to go with Jameer Joseph getting the pick 6. He delivered in a big way. Okay, later in the game, Penn State really wants to put this game out of reach. And Jameer Joseph not showing any freshman tendencies at all. Great read on the quarterback, great read on the play, and the open field vision to take that to the house. That's about a give or take 40-yard interception return for a touchdown. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been following along, we've talked about Jameer Joseph. You know this performance was not a fluke. And just like Joseph delivering for Penn State, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season. You could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. All right. Final segment outside of Beaver Stadium. Live post game just to kind of get that initial reaction out there, right? Live chat will still continue to be active here. Let's see what else we have. So I want to find where I left off in my spot. They are shuffling a lot of players in on the own line, seeing it all day. But it's the guys that, so yes, that initially was one of my concerns. And, you know, to an extent still is. It is a good enough reason for me to say that, oh, this is what Penn State's trying to work on. But these are the players that Penn State's identified as those 7 starters, quote unquote, right? They're not cycling in backups. It's different along the defensive line and linebacker and the secondary. They're rotating guys in left and right. There's no chemistry there, and the defense has been phenomenal. They've been great. But TJ Shanahan and Cooper Cousins will selectively get in the game periodically. It's just and it's them together. Drew Shelton isn't coming in and out really. Nolan Rucci, Anthony Donko's not sliding over to tackle. It's not all these different variations. It's TJ Shanahan and Cooper Cousins as a package duo, then they leave, and then it's Vanga Ioane and Anthony Donko again. At some points in time, the TJ Shanahan Cooper Cousins combo was working better. And why? I don't know. Maybe Villanova had different defensive players out there. It's just, again, that's just kind of an eye test thing. I don't have any stats or anything to prove that if that truly backs it up. But the offensive line, again, Drew Shelton was a starter a year ago. Vanga Ioane was a starter a year ago. Nick Dawkins, Anthony Donko started at tackle. He was recruited as a guard. Okay, this isn't like a completely unnatural position for him. Nolan Rucci started as that tackle once Anthony Donko was out for injury last season. So the offensive line, some excuse, but not too much. 54-6. PSU. Oregon wasn't pounding a bad Northwestern team at halftime. I chalked that up to, it was a noon Eastern time, West Coast Pacific time, 9 a.m. kickoff for Oregon. The sharps were on that, or the odds makers were on that, because I thought Northwestern would cover that spread at half, and they did not. And Oregon, they knew, hey, let's just go on the road, get a win, and leave. They did not. They took it to Oklahoma State. That was the coming out party for Oregon, where they showed the nation that this offense did not take a step back. Maybe it even took a step forward. Oklahoma State is not great. That is probably going to be a team that contends for last place in the Big 12. Same thing with Northwestern in the Big 10. But I don't look at that and say, oh, well, the score was, I don't remember the score off the top of my head. It was 34-14 or something like that. Northwestern scored a couple touchdowns late. That game was put away in the third quarter. Oregon did not need to keep pedal to the metal, foot on the gas type of stuff. They needed to get in and get out because they still play Oregon State. Penn State has the luxury of a bye week. Oregon does not. Oregon has to play another competitive team in Oregon State, and that's a rivalry game. Hi, Zach. Hey, Zach. Diana. Hi. Thank you for joining the live show. Allar is too slow running, decision-making, and not consistent. He'll last as long as Hackenberg did in the NFL. Ooh. Allar's not the fastest QB. He's mobile. I like his pocket. Let's talk about a positive here. Allar does have pretty decent pocket mobility. He is tough to bring down. He is tough to sack within the pocket. It's the decision making. It's reading the football field. It's being indecisive. And we know that he can make those laser types of throws. He double coverage, perfect thread of the needle right to Trevor Peña. But those plays are too far in between. There are too many of the drive stalling types of throws or plays, and Allar's tendency is to not turn the ball over. We know that for a fact, because that's how we have a 3-year sample of Allar defaulting to, he said it before, I try to dirt the football. That was his reasoning for the interception against Notre Dame. But his tendency is, let me throw the football away, let me throw it errantly. So to think that, oh, he's just completely inaccurate. No, it is so, let me throw a turnover, let me avoid the turnover and live to fight another down. That only gets you somewhat so far. You have to take a few more risks. And again, it's too much of a wide spectrum where you have those fantastic plays. Oh, this is what the former 5-star QB can do, to the decision-making. Allar has the tools. Allar has the raw talent. But in year 4, he's not showing that he can put it together. Penn State will always take a back seat to the Buckeyes. I mean, Ohio State continues to do better in recruiting, better in the transfer portal, and they're winning the games, right? The head-to-head results. So, yeah, Penn State, until further notice, is behind Ohio State. Ohio State still runs the Big Ten. They have a Franklin issue. Franklin has gotten them to this point. Again, we shouldn't just totally overlook. If they were they're struggling in the non-conference schedule, right? They still have the rest of the season. So there's my optimistic look and take on it, right? They got to the college football playoff semifinal. They win. They have double-digit winning seasons pretty routinely. They're not losing to teams that they should, right? They're losing to the teams that they should. Ohio State, the national championship Michigan team, albeit the allegations, right? Oregon in the Big Ten championship last year. Notre Dame. They don't lose to Boise State. They don't lose to SMU, teams that are around the top 10, but Penn State's still better than them. They're winning the games that they're supposed to. So, all right, let's see. Again, I got to wrap this one up as we're approaching the 30-minute mark. As an Oregon fan, I can say Oregon played poorly today against Northwestern. Okay, so I did not get to see the entire tape. Their sloppy and lethargic play. Hopefully they managed to travel better for the whiteout. Nighttime kickoff, the biggest difference there. I think Oregon, again, with Oregon State right on the horizon, and Penn State, again, when you compare the two against Northwestern, is a much better opponent than Villanova, okay? But Oregon played a game at 12 p.m. Eastern time, which is 9 a.m. Pacific time, 9 a.m. their time. So I'm not going to hold that against Oregon whatsoever. If they look sloppy, if they look sluggish, hey, because they're still asleep, man. So, but I do want to see the totality of that game. Where were they making mistakes? Were these things that were just miscommunications, out of their control, that type of thing? So I'll go back and review that as well. This is where we will wrap things up. Allar just can't get it done. Not sure why so many believe that he would turn into Joe Montana this year. I don't think I ever made that direct correlation that, oh, he's Joe Montana. But just to kind of briefly sum it up and bring this up again, I think not most people, but there was the optimistic hope that this would be a variation of the Trevor Lawrence Clemson experience, that Penn State finally got its quarterback, its 5-star QB, but Allar was not as game ready as Trevor Lawrence was. Okay. But that's then. This is now. And I'm not saying that Allar needs to be Trevor Lawrence 2.0, but be better than what you are, because he's not missing the big time throws. It's the easy ones. The cool highlight reel throws seem to actually are better for Drew Allar. They happen a little more organically for Allar. And it's these ones that are 7 to 10 yards or maybe 10 to 15 that it's just like, what are you doing? Oh, but you can complete that. You have no problems with that one, but it's the simple mistakes. So we'll have more conversations, of course. Again, this is just initial reaction, but it's not just Drew Allar. It's not just James Franklin. Again, the offensive line has not done enough. The pass catchers, there is a chemistry element, and they are dropping passes here and there. But Allar, it does start with him because Nick Dawkins technically has the football first, but Allar gets the football right after. He does make the decision. He is missing wide open wide receivers, but the wide receivers do let him down from time to time. So is the offensive line and the ground game. Kaytron Allen's been really good. I'm glad that I'll have more thoughts on the Nicholas Singleton, Kaytron Allen dynamic duo in the coming days here. But thank you so much for joining me here outside of Beaver Stadium. It's a nice, cool night. Please be safe, be well, enjoy it. More coverage here about Penn State football, all of it. Penn State football, Penn State wrestling, Penn State basketball, hockey, you name it. It's all on this channel. We do this daily. So if you're not an everydayer, become one. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Penn State defeats Villanova 52-6. Penn State is 3-0 on the season and has a bye week coming up where they will get 2 weeks to prepare for the Oregon Ducks.